Today's class we will discuss some more points about the evaluation of classifiers. We have already studied different classifiers like decision tree, Bayes classifier, etc. Now we discussed about how the classifiers can be evaluated based on different classifier performance measures like confusion matrix and the various terms precision, recall, etc. Now in this class we will discuss about how the label data can be divided into test data and training data in various ways to improve the performance of the classifier. So there are several, in machine learning, there are several classification algorithms. We have studied already some of the classification algorithms. And so there is a need to examine how we can assess how good a selected algorithm is. So we need to compare the performance of two or more different classification algorithms. So we need multiple validation sets. When we apply classification algorithm in a practical situation, we always do a validation test. We keep a small sample of examples as validation set and the remaining set as the training set. So the classifier developed using the training set is applied to the examples in the validation set. Based on the performance of the validation set, the accuracy of the classifier is assessed. So usually we are using only a single validation set. So the performance measure obtained by a single validation set alone does not give a true picture of the performance of the classifier. And also these measures alone cannot be meaningfully used to compare two algorithms. So we need different validation sets. Cross validation and k-fold cross validation are two common methods for generating multiple training and validation sets from a given data set. So single validation set alone will not give us the true picture of the performance of the classifier. We need multiple validation set, and this can be developed using cross validation and k-fold cross validation. Then so when we use only a single data set, we have one classifier and one validation error. To average over randomness, we use same algorithm and generate multiple classifiers. We test these classifiers on multiple validation sets, and we have we can have validation errors, not a single error. So we can evaluate the classifier based on the statistical distribution of these validation errors. And we can also find out the expected error rate from the set of errors. Now, what is no free lunch theorem? So whatever conclusion we draw from our analysis is conditioned on the data set we are given. Actually, the classification algorithms are domain dependent. We are generating a classifier for cancer data set cannot be used for another application. So it is domain dependent. So we are not saying anything about the expected error rate of a learning algorithm or comparing one learning algorithm with another algorithm. Any result we have is only true for a particular application because that classifier is domain dependent. So there is no such thing as the best learning algorithm. For any learning algorithm, there is a data set where it is very accurate and another data set where it is very poor. This is called the no free lunch theorem. So there are other factors for the comparison of classification algorithms. There are several factors like risk when errors are generalized using loss function. In Bayesian classification, there are some more aspects involved like Bayesian risk, loss function, etc. That means when we classify a negative object as positive, that means a person is having cancer and he is classified as not having cancer. There is a risk associated with this, with the classification. Similarly, the person having cancer is not classified as not having cancer, and a person having not having cancer is classified as having cancer. There are two possibilities. The risk associated with these two classification errors is different. So there are risk factors, loss functions, and training time and space complexity. Similarly, testing time and space complexity, interpretability, then easy programmability. These are some of the factors which we can consider while we are comparing the classification algorithms. Now coming to cross-validation. To test the performance of the classifier, we need to have a number of training validation set pairs, not a single validation and training set pair. We need to have number of training and validation set pairs on a data set. To get them, if the sample is large enough, we can randomly divide it and divide each part into training set and validation set. Unfortunately, the data sets are never large, so we use some same data to split differently. This is called cross-validation. That means cross-validation is a technique to evaluate the predictive models by partitioning the original sample into training set to train the model and test set to evaluate. The holdout method is the simplest kind of cross-validation. The data set is separated into two sets called the training set and the testing set. This is known as the holdout method. The algorithm fits a function using the training set. Then this function is used to predict the output values for the testing set. The errors it makes are used to evaluate the model. But in k-fold cross-validation, in simple cross-validation, there is only two portion. One is a training set and the other is a testing set. But there are another method is known as the k-fold cross-validation. In k-fold cross-validation, we are dividing the data set into k equal sized parts. That is, xi is divided into x1, x2, etc. up to xk. Then to generate each pair, we keep one of the k parts for the validation set and the remaining k-1 for the training set. And we do this k times. The value of k can be 10 or 30. As k increases, the percentage of training instances increases, and we get more robust estimators. The validation set becomes smaller. Now this is the k-fold cross-validation. We are dividing the data into k parts, x1, x2, etc. up to xk. Initially, we are using x1 for the validation and t1 is equal to x2 union x3, etc. up to xk for the testing, training. And next iteration, we are using x2 for validation and the set t2 is equal to x1, x1 union x3 union etc. up to xk for training. Similarly, like that, vk is equal to xk. That is, xk is used for validation and the remaining portion x1, x2, etc. up to xk minus 1 is used for training purpose. This is known as k-fold cross-validation. That means we are dividing the data set into k parts and one is used for validation and the remaining k-1 part is used for training. So these two parts are disjoint. There are two problems with the k-fold cross-validation. Here the training set is large and we are allowing the validation set is very small. So the training sets overlap. When we take the two consecutive sets, we can find that the training set is overlapping. They are sharing k-2 parts are common. So the K is typically 10 or 30, and as K increases, the percentage of training instances increases. And we get more robust estimators, but validation set is smaller. And we have to train the classifier K times, which increases as K is increased. So this is an example of five-fold cross-validation. The data set is divided into 5 parts, one used for testing, and the remaining 4 parts for training. Similarly, in second fold, this is the first part is training, second part is testing, remaining 3 parts are again for training. Third fold, first 2 parts are training, third part is testing, again the remaining 2 parts are training, and fourth fold, the first 3 parts testing, then the remaining fourth part testing, and the last part is also for training. And the fifth fold, first 4 parts are for training and the last part is for testing. Now, leave one out cross validation. This is an extreme case of k-fold cross validation, and that is known as leave one out. From the name, it is clear that given a data set of n instance, only one instance is left out as a validation set, and the remaining n minus 1 instances are used for training. One instance is used for testing, and remaining n minus 1 instances are used for the training purpose. So we then get n separate pairs by leaving out a different instance. This is used mainly in medical diagnosis, where label data is very difficult to find. And 5 into 2 cross validation, we saw 5-fold cross validation, and 5 into 2 cross validation is somewhat different. In this, we divide the data set into 2 equal parts, x11 and x21. We take x11 for training set, and x21 as validation set. Then we will swap the two sets. That is, we take x21 as training and x11 as a validation set. This is the first fold. Then the process is repeated 4 more times to get 10 pairs of training sets and validation set. This is known as 5 into 2 cross validation. This is the example. That means training set data is divided into 2 equal parts, x11, x12. And in the first case, we are using x11 for training and x12 for validation. Then we will swap. Next phase, x12 is for training and x11 is for validation. Again, we divide the data into 2 parts, x21 and x22. This is in the T3, x21 is used for training and x22 is used for validation. Then we will swap. In T4, x22 is used for training and V4, x21 is used for validation. Like that, we will continue. In T9, x51 is used for training and x52 is used for validation. In T10, we will switch x52 and x51. Now, what is bootstrapping? Bootstrapping is the term in statistics. The term bootstrap sampling or bootstrapping refers to the process of random sampling with the replacement. That is, suppose we are having 5 balls A, B, C, D, E in an urn, and we wish to select different samples of balls from the urn. So we use a procedure. This is an example for bootstrap sampling. We select 2 balls from the basket. Let them be A and D. We will record the labels. And we put the 2 balls back. Again, we select the balls from the basket. Let them be C and D. And we record the labels. Put them back into the basket. And so we are getting the samples A and D and C and E for training. Similarly, we can perform the bootstrapping in data, the labeled data, which can be used for the training purpose. And the remaining set can be used for testing purpose. So in machine learning, bootstrapping is the process of computing the performance measures using several randomly selected training and test sets, which are selected through the process of sampling with the replacement. So in this case, bootstrapping, we are selecting the training and testing set using the process of random sampling with the replacement. This is known as bootstrapping. So the data sets are selected several times. So the bootstrap procedure will create one or more new training data set, some of which are repeated. So the training data set will be repeated because we are using sampling with the replacement. So the data sets will be repeated in training data set, and the corresponding test data will be constructed from the set of examples that were not selected for training. So the training data set is selected based on simple random sampling with the replacement, and from the remaining trainings, by avoiding the objects selected in the for the training set, we can select objects for the testing phase. So the training dataset and testing dataset will be mutually exclusive, and training dataset is selected with the simple random sampling with the replacement. This is known as bootstrapping. We have studied different measures of measuring error in classifier, which we have clearly studied. They are false positive, false negative, and true negative. And this is values are recorded in the confusion matrix. And based on the performance of the classifier, we are recording the values in the confusion matrix. The values will be true positive, false negative, and true negative. Based on these values, we can find out the precision and recall. And the formula for precision and recall we have already studied. And there are other measures which we have already studied: accuracy, error rate, sensitivity, specificity, F measure, etc. All these can be used for measuring the performance of the classifier. So we will discuss various ways in which we can select the test data and the training data from the set of labeled data using holdout method, leave one out method, cross validation, etc. Random bootstrapping. All these are methods for selecting the training set and testing set. Now, using the test set, we can evaluate the performance of the classifier, and that is known as the confusion matrix, and true positive, true negative, and all these values are based on the performance of the classifier on the test set. Now we are coming to another topic, which is receiver operating characteristics, or ROC. This ROC stands for receiver operating characteristics, and this is a terminology coming from the signal detection theory. This was first developed by electrical engineers and radar engineers during World War for detecting the enemy objects in battlefield. Now this ROC is increasingly used in machine learning and data mining research. The two main terms associated with the ROC curve is TPR and FPR, that is true positive rate and false positive rate. So this can be true positive rate and false positive rate can be calculated from true positive, true negative, false positive, and false negative. So the formula for TPR is TP divided by TP plus Fn, fraction of positive examples correctly classified. Actually, false negative is the positive tuples that were incorrectly labeled as negative. So false negative plus true positive will give the total number of positive tuples. The value true positive divided by true positive plus false negative is a fraction of positive examples correctly classified, and that is a sensitivity. false positive plus true negative. That is a fraction of negative examples incorrectly classified. These two terms are important for ROC curve. Now the FPR value we are plotting the curve, the ROC curve is obtained by plotting the FPR value along the horizontal axis and the GPR value along the vertical axis. So for each classifier, there is a unique point in this plane with the coordinates FPR and GPR. So the position of the point FPR, GPR in the ROC space is an indication of the performance of the classifier. There are some special points in the ROC curve. They are, one is a left bottom corner of the point 0, 0. 0, 0 always gives negative prediction. In the ROC curve, left bottom corner represent, that is 0, 0. This point is always giving the negative prediction. And the right top corner 1, 1, you will get positive prediction. And the left top corner 0, 1 is the perfect prediction. The points along the diagonal, that is the random performance. Now left bottom corner point 0, 0, which gives always negative prediction. That means this point ROC space never classifies an example as positive. It predicts the point as negative. So because for this point, true positive will be 0 and false positive will be 0. No object will be classified as positive at this point. So it always makes negative prediction. All positive instances are wrongly predicted and all negative instances are correctly predicted. So there is no false positive error at this point. Similarly, in the right top corner point, that is 1, 1, that point will be positive prediction, always positive prediction. So the classifier produces at this point classifies an example as positive. For this point, false negative will be 0 and true negative will be 0. So all positive instances will be correctly classified at this point and all negative instances will be wrongly predicted. And there is no false negative error at this point. And the left top corner, that is 0, 1, that is the perfect prediction. Classifier which produces this point in the ROC space is thought of as the perfect classifier and it produces no false positive and no false negative. No errors are there in the left top corner. Perfect prediction. And the points along the diagonal, they are random performance. That is, points elements are obtained by joining zeros and the point will be giving random performance. This is the ROC curve. Here, top left corner 0, 1, perfect prediction. Top right corner 1, always positive prediction. And points along the diagonal, that is randomized. And the point, bottom point 0, 0, this is always negative prediction. ROC curve is obtained by plotting false positive rate along the x-axis and true positive rate along the y-axis. So some classification algorithms, the classifier may depend on the parameter. So when you consider artificial neural network, there are different parameters, learning rate, etc. Different values of the parameter will give different classifier. So we will have in turn this will give different GPR and FPR. So the ROC curve obtained by plotting the ROC space, obtained by assigning all values to the parameter in the classifier. So now when we consider the classifier, there are 3 classifier performance indicated here, A, B, and C. The false positive rate is taken in the x-axis and true positive rate along the y-axis. The ROC curve for 3 different classifiers are left corner. Here C is closest to the top left corner. This is the best accuracy in terms of prediction because top left corner is a perfect prediction, and the curve which is closer to the top left corner is more accurate. Body mass index and the area of the ROC curve that determines the performance. Measure of area under the ROC curve is denoted by AUC. The value of the AUC is the measure of the performance of classifier. For perfect classifier, AUC is equal to 1. We can evaluate the classifier in the ROC curve. We can evaluate the classifier using condition matrix, and we can improve the performance of the classifiers using the various methods for selecting the training data and testing data.